and I tell people in interviews, if they're coming, they're like, I'm about to interview, what's some advice? An interview is your chance to really pat yourself on the back.
Mhm.
You won't get many chances to do this.
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back, take credit for any and everything that you've done. It's hard. It goes against every bone and feeling in me to do that.
Turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, I'm Paul Faronbi, aka IncrediPaul, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where we learn how to become the most incredible versions of ourselves by learning from each other. First off, if you're just listening to this episode, you can also watch it on YouTube. But regardless, if you're listening or watching this episode, thank you so much for your support. I have the honor of having Lori Strange on the show. Lori is a chief engineer for Air and Space Force business area of BAE Incorporated Systems. BAE Systems Incorporated, INS sector. She has over 25 years of experience supporting DoD and civilian customers. So that was a little bit about you, Lori, but how about you introduce yourself the way you would do it?
All right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited and honored as well. When you hear your credentials or your bio, you're like, wow, 25 years. Man, I'm getting old. But yeah, I've been doing this straight out of college, University of Virginia, go Wahoos, go Cavaliers.
Cavaliers, yeah.
Yeah, started out in shipbuilding down in Newport News. You can't tell from the camera, but I'm extremely tall. So working on submarines just really didn't work out.
Oh, man.
Kind of, kind of short. My hard hat can tell you some stories.
Okay.
So I did that for, a couple of years and realized hard hat, steel toe boots just wasn't my thing. I preferred that more office, corporate environment where I get to, dress up, wear my makeup, be cute. So I started looking for positions, in the DC, Virginia area. So fortunately, I was able to do what I like to do, still work with submarines. And I came to the Virginia metropolitan area. I did that been here ever since.
Wow.
Just going through various companies, various positions where I landed ultimately at BAE.
Mm-hmm.
Now in McLean, Virginia, working. I started out with like configuration management, data management, into program management, combat systems, system engineering to where I am today.
Yeah.
I live in Maryland with my husband and my two semi-grown children, my two sons. One's in college and one's a junior in high school. So.
Okay. So I understand the semi-grown now.
Yeah.
For sure. So thanks for sharing that background.
You're welcome.
And I know you kind of said you started off like on the submarine, like kind of talk through that, because I feel like that's something that most people haven't experienced. Like, how does that even happen? Like, I'm sure you took classes for that in college, but did you, or maybe not? I don't know. Like, talk me through how that even happened.
Let me see. Senior year, time is crunching. I'm about to graduate. I need a job. So you start applying, and you're like, okay, I'm not hearing anything. What's going on? And then a gentleman contacted me from, it's now Huntington Ingalls, but Newport News Shipbuilding at that time, and said, hey, we want to fly you in, wine and dine you, take you out, and see if you want to come work here. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm impressed already.
Yeah.
So I went, did the lunch, got the tour, and I'm like, well, okay, this is not what I was really looking forward to, but they wanted me to be a test engineer, writing procedures and policies. So I didn't really learn that in college, but they were fine with that. The one thing about engineering is it's a teachable major. And a lot of people usually hire you not really for your engineering skills, but for your learning and your methodology and how you can solve a problem and work through it. So that's really what they were looking for. Am I able to do that? So I was able to do that. So on graduation, I was like, oh, I have a job. And no sooner than I started at the shipyard, all of the previous applications I sent in, and they started to call me and they're like, hey, you want to come work here? You want to do this?
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
I already started. You're late. Can't do it.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
So
yeah.
after the fact, you got the influx of all these other opportunities. Were there any regrets like that they came in later, or were you
There was one. Yes. Because I wanted to work. It was DuPont.
DuPont?
So,
Okay.
shame on you.
They missed their chance.
Yes, they missed it. So, yeah, I was like, okay, this is great. That's what I wanted to do. It was corporate environment, doing engineering and sales and marketing. It was like everything all in one, interacting with
Okay.
customers. I was like, yeah, that was it. But too
Yeah.
little, too late.
Too little, too
I don't
late.
regret. Don't regret my decision. I met my future husband there. He was also an engineer.
Oh, that's
So no regrets at all. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that first opportunity.
so that's really good.
Mhm.
'Cause I feel like a lot of times, like when, because I think it's really key what you mentioned that you took the opportunity you had. Because I think sometimes people are afraid of making a decision or afraid of doing something because they're like, what if it's the wrong decision? Can I make a change? Can I do something different? But it's obvious from your story that you made that decision that led to you meeting your now husband.
Mhm.
Like you got a lot of great experience enough
Yeah.
that you're like, this is it for me long term, or you need to transition into a more corporate setting?
Mhm. Yeah. Fear of missing out. Everyone has that regret. Yeah. They're like, if I take this, could something else be on the horizon? And,
Mhm.
what could I miss out on? Is this the right decision? And I go through that all the time. Even now, when when other companies approach me, when
Mm,
LinkedIn, your resume's out there and
yeah.
headhunters come after you. Are you interested? Are you interested?
Oh, God.
And you're like, I've been doing this for so long and I'm comfortable. And is it
Mhm.
really greener on the other side? And
Mhm.
you worry, but sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith. And as I tell people, when it's right, when it's time to put your foot out there and try something different.
Yeah. Do you have certain things that you look for to know, like if it's whether it might even be in the same company transitioning to a new role or like a new company, like is there like a checklist you have of like, these are the things that need to be right for me to make the jump, or how do you kind of go about doing that?
I am very family oriented.
Good.
I still have one son still at home, and he's athletic and he has lots of activities at school, and I don't like to miss
Good.
his activities. So for me, my top really is flexibility
Okay.
in a job.
Mhm.
I need to be able to, if I need to leave and attend an event, I want to be able to attend an event and not have to check in, check out, and be
Mhm.
micromanaged.
Mhm.
So some companies, you're not able to do that. You have to be in the plant, in the shop,
Yeah.
24 out. You have
Yeah.
to be there all day, every day. You can't
Yeah.
be out of the office. You can't telework. So for me, it is
The
flexibility. Um, and of course, pay. Pay's
A is
always important.
important. A is very important.
So I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
quite important.
Yeah.
But there are other benefits to not just pay. I like to be rewarded for my work. So I do ask about incentives,
Mhm.
incentive plans. A lot of people don't realize that organizations for, senior leaders, they do, or high potential employees, they do have incentive programs
Mhm.
that they can put you in. And sometimes they won't tell you.
Mm.
But if you ask about it, and then they're more open to say, oh, well, she's done her research. She understands, she knows. Hmm. Okay. So that's important, just to be fairly compensated for the work I put in, because I put in 110%.
Yeah.
As I tell everyone, if I put my name on it, it's has to be good. It has to
Mhm.
be, I wouldn't say perfect, but it's got to live up to my standards. No one
Yeah.
else's standards, but my standards. So if I'm going to give you my, 9 to 5 and then come home, deal with the family, and then get back on at 9, 10 p.m. to
Yeah.
finish a project, I do like to be compensated for that. Commute is also
Okay. That's a big
important.
one, I feel like.
Yeah. I commute now. People say, Laura, you commute. You already travel in an hour and a half into work now. That's just because of
An hour and
traffic.
a half
Yeah. Yeah.
of the DMV area.
Yeah. It's traffic. It's like I'm really only about not even 30 miles from the job,
Wow.
but traffic is just bumper to bumper to bumper. And so I should learn a language. I mean, really, Rosetta Stone or Babel and I should really be good friends. I should know
Oh, yeah, at that
Mandarin or German by now. You
time.
know,
You do
but it
that.
is a great time to turn on podcasts and,
Mhm.
like yours, and turn on the music and just kind of I do blast my music. People drive up alongside me and they're looking at me like, what is she doing? She's having a personal party.
Those are the best kinds, I feel like.
Yeah, getting my mind mentally prepared to
Mhm.
get in there. As soon as I hit the door, plans go out the door. I'm like, I'm going to answer my emails and I'm going to tackle this. And I get knocks at my glass door. You got a minute? You got a minute. So I'm
Oh, wow.
like, okay, time to
Yeah.
tackle it.
Yeah. Knocks at your glass door. Yeah. Talk to me about life as a chief engineer, because I feel like that is a lot of responsibility. And yeah, like, what does that look like? I'm sure there's a lot of meetings and things, but are there any
Mhm.
things that people might not expect that you have to deal with on the day-to-day or week-to-week basis?
Yeah, I'm still getting adjusted. I've only
Okay.
been in the positions for about 18 months now. So I'm still really learning everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm sure some things are missing, but
Which,
eventually it'll catch up to me.
yeah.
So yeah, a lot of responsibility. My job really is just to make sure that the products and the services that we provide to our customers is safe, it's
Mhm.
sound, environmentally friendly.
Mhm.
We've done our due diligence to make sure we've reviewed it, to make sure it's up to code, it's within policy, depending on if it's a ship, a radar,
Mhm.
a circuit board, whatever it might be, just to make sure that we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's and
Mhm.
everything is sound. So when we deliver it to the customer, they're not worried. Is this thing going to blow up? Is it going to stop working? Is the military going to be in trouble because of something BA presented or gave to
Mhm.
us?
Mhm.
So that puts things in perspective, knowing that what I do affects people's families,
Yeah.
especially our soldiers going abroad. And, I had two military members. My two brothers were in the military. So
Mhm.
just knowing that if someone was selling them something, I want them to come home safe. I'd want it to be safe.
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
puts things, really changes your view. So that's one approach to it. Looking at new technologies and how we can incorporate that within our products and our services. Um, most people think, oh, well, I'm doing equations and you know stuff all day. No, over reviewing processes, procedures, overseeing quality for the
Okay.
organization. As well as and my team is so dispersed from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
There's really no one in one central area. So that, different time zones.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Didn't think
Oh,
about that.
yeah. Even internationally, when they travel to fix a radar or whatever, they're in Australia or in some remote island that you can't even pronounce. And they're calling me
Wow.
what time is it there? Oh, it's 2 a.m. Oh, it's 2 p.m. here.
Wow.
So yeah, you got to be pretty flexible. But
Okay.
there's not a dull moment,
Okay.
never a dull moment. Exciting, lots of collaboration, not
Mhm.
just with fellow engineers, but you're working with finance, um, because you're looking at, I guess, risks from all different perspectives.
Mhm.
So you're working with your finance team, your program management team, your quality team, you're with everything in the news, you're looking at supply chain.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's been big the last 4 years, especially.
Exactly. So you're, as I say, you're the jack of all trades and really the master of none. You got to know enough
Yeah.
of every little piece to be dangerous. and it all comes together.
Okay.
But yeah, keeps you
Uh,
busy.
oh, I'm sure it sounds very busy, especially now I understand what you meant with the flexibility. Like if you're managing people across the globe and getting calls at 2 in the morning, like you got to have flexibility.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, you do. So if I put in 14 hours one day, don't expect 14 the next day unless unless it's absolutely needed. You
Okay.
might get 6 or 7 out of me
Okay.
the next day, but
Oh, yeah, it's good to have that flexibility for sure.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned a few things as far as like what you look for the flexibility and the compensation. And I think a lot of times, like talking to professionals as they're trying to get into a role, because you talked about asking those questions even around incentives, people are afraid to ask the question because they're afraid of what the ramifications are going to be sometimes. I guess, did you get to a point that you just start asking the questions, or were you at some point afraid, or like talk me through like where you got to a place like I'm gonna ask for what I'm worth, what I deserve? 'Cause I think some people need time to get there, and I don't. Yeah, I'll
You-
just leave it like that. Yeah,
it's easier said than done.
yeah,
I can definitely give advice and tell people you go in there and you demand what you want, you tell them what you expect.
yeah.
Easy to tell someone to do that, but
But
actually taking your own advice, it's still challenging,
mhm,
especially being African American and being a female.
mhm,
Not something we're really taught.
yeah,
I've had many times where even family members will say, "You should be happy you have a job," because there's people that
they said that.
they don't have jobs. So why are you demanding so much? And it's like because
Wow.
but that's more older generation.
Yeah,
They're just happy that wow, you make good money.
yeah,
Don't don't shake the boat. Why are you
yeah,
ruffling things up and possibly
yeah.
messing up a
Good.
good opportunity? But as you know, the younger generation, who's 20 years younger than me, 2 years they're trying to go from graduation to vice president. you know, they just want that immediate
Yeah.
gratification. So I think you just have to put it in perspective. For me, it was really having champions and
Yeah.
encouragers and people in my court to help me through it and get through, through that and to actually know what to ask
Healing.
because I couldn't have found out information on my own, but it was important to have people in HR, friends in, human resources to tell you about going
Okay.
out and do like market analysis.
Oh yeah.
Go see, your position. You use this tool and go see how much you make here. Glassdoor. See how much you make here and what your responsibilities are and what they're making in other companies. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
you can do that? Hmm, okay, let's try it. And then you could kind of see where you fall in the mist based on your experiences. But without knowing that information, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Or talking
Mhm.
and having champions who are already in senior leadership
Yeah.
and they're asking you, are you know about this incentive and do you know about this? And it's like, no, I
Mhm.
didn't know about that. What's that about?
Mhm.
And then they open up about it, and of course you have to approach it strategically and
Yeah.
kind of delicately, but it it's good to go in there armed with the information you need to make your request. I won't say demand, make your
Yeah, it's
request
still a request.
for equitable adjustments.
Yeah.
um yeah, and then I think already having a job
Good.
and already having something to fall back on makes it a little easier too,
Good.
especially if you go to another company or you're talking to another company,
Good.
because you have really nothing to lose.
Yeah,
All you
that's
can do is ask the questions, and all they can do is say no or
yeah.
yes or negotiate with you. But you still have a position.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's very true.
yeah, you're not really missing out and everything, but ask not, get not, you know.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
very true. Closed mouths don't get fed.
There you go. There you go.
That's something for a previous podcast. That's so I wrote a book about that. So
Mhm.
But I think that that's really key, what you said. Like, even this idea of having a job, I tell people the best time to look for a job is when you think that you don't need a job. Just because, like, the way the world is, and with layoffs and just continuing to network and just build out things, you just never know what's going to happen. Or even if it's not that you're laid off, there might be an opportunity out there that is better for you or more aligned with your values, what you're trying to do, that you didn't even know what existed. And if you're not putting yourself out there, you're not building those networks, you're never going to know about it.
Yeah, you're right. Networking is key. I wouldn't have been able to meet you if I hadn't done the NASB event and the
Mm-hmm.
networking there. I did contemplate, do I really have the time to take away from the job to go and do this?
Yeah.
But then I realized that those type of activities, speaking to other youth and African Americans and young professionals coming up behind me
Mm-hmm.
who may not necessarily have that interaction with individuals that look like them,
Mm-hmm.
that it was worth taking out the time. I know for me growing up, there weren't, I didn't have that network of engineers that looked like me. Most of them were in, as you know, human resources or non-STEM
Yeah.
fields.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that, I want to change that view. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted them to be able to come and knock on my door and reach out to me and, just feel comfortable doing that. So that's really actually outside of my work and everything else I do. That is the highlight of my career. Really, it's just, talking to other individuals and mentoring. I love mentoring.
That's
Um,
powerful.
yeah, I do, especially, just asking general questions. You get so much about, well, how did you have a family and manage a career?
Mm,
How did you do that work-life balance?
yeah.
And I said, well, first of all, there's no such thing for me personally as
Yeah.
work-life balance.
Yeah.
There's never going to be a 50-50 split. That's what I
Yeah.
consider balance.
Yeah.
50-50, not
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Mm-hmm.
But someone kind of turned me on to the term work-life integration. For all you
Whoa.
engineers, you STEM people, work-life integration.
Integration. I like that.
Yes. So it's the fact of blending the two together. So you might, one day it might be 60% work, 40% personal. The next day it might be 90% work and 10% professional. But
Mhm.
it's the fact of integrating the two together that you come out in the right mind and sane and happy, and you're not sacrificing your family and you're not
Mhm.
sacrificing your job. So it's
Yeah.
the point of you just being able to mix the two together for what works best for you. And what works for you might not be what works for the next person.
Yeah.
My husband and I are both professionals, working professionals with varying schedules. And
Mm,
you have to do a lot of schedule coordination. Who's
sure.
got picked up? Who's got dropped off?
You
Who's
could.
going to parent teacher night? Are we meeting up there? Are we driving separate? There's a lot
Mm,
of coordination, and you have to do what's best for you and your family. That's all I can say.
no, that's really good. I like this whole idea of work-life integration, because I always, when people talk about work-life balance, I totally agree. I'm like, I don't believe that work-life balance is real. Like, I think it's become it's kind of like been a buzzword, but I like what you said, like, it's never really 50-50. It kind of ebbs and flows. I always talk more about the prioritization. So the key things in work, there's key deadlines, or key things in life too. Like, if there's like anniversaries, birthdays, like you meant, sporting events, like those are key things. But it's
Right.
not like every little thing that happens in life you're going to move things around for work. Or even in work, it's not like every key thing that every little thing that someone asks for is like, is this something that really needs to be done right now, or something that can wait until later? And really understanding what the priorities are, I think that's really the key thing to start with.
Yeah. And those are questions you have to ask. Like you said, someone else's critical and urgent is not necessarily your critical and urgent,
Mhm.
or even critical and urgent at all.
Yeah. Very true.
Hmm. Yeah, it just might be they let it sit on their desks for too long. And now
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
oh, shoot, it's due by 4 p.m. And I had it for a week. And now
Yeah.
you need to drop everything and help me. No,
Yeah.
really?
It's like, it sounds like a time management issue and not in your own, like someone else's
No.
time management.
Mhm. Exactly. That sounds like a personal problem right now. But let's work through this.
Yeah. How can we prevent this from happening in the future?
Exactly.
For sure. So that's good. I know. So you mentioned earlier that we met at NESB. So at the NESB Professional Development Conference in DC, you were on a panel talking really a lot of stuff about mental health and just being good in the workplace.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of things that you and the other panelists shared were really key things. And so that's why I reached out. I was like, I gotta have you on the show as someone who's really high up in leadership in STEM, and this whole podcast is about leadership in STEM, becoming the most credible versions of ourselves. So I'm just wondering, as you've like approached your career, how you've been more intentional about promoting your mental and emotional health.
It took a while.
Mm-hmm.
It took some time. It took some rethinking. And it also took just time, years of
Mm-hmm.
being in the position I am and getting to a place of I'm, trusted and highly regarded by my peers and my senior leadership. But starting out initially, as I mentioned at the conference at the panel discussion, when I first came in the field, you're young, you don't
Mm-hmm.
know what you can and can't say, what you can and can't do because you are fearful of, am I going to lose my job? I need this, I have bills to pay. I got student loans to repay. I
Yeah,
can't afford. I can't
that's
afford to not have a job. I can't move back in with my parents. No, I worked so
great.
hard to get out. So
Mm-hmm.
you're more apt to put the company over your health and well-being. And for many years, I did that. So I would miss doctor's appointments, even though I know I've got this nagging pain in my side, or, my vision's a bit blurry and I'm 2 years overdue for an eye appointment. And you just put things in the back burner because you're trying to keep your job and you're trying to prove yourself early on in your career until it gets to a point where, oh, my health is suffering and I'm bringing these problems home to my family. And they're like, Mom, you're so grumpy and you're so cranky. And, you're physically here, but you're not mentally here. And
Wow.
no, Mom, nobody wants to hear that. Um, so over time, it really just causes you to reevaluate and look at, am I giving the organization more than I'm giving myself and my family? And as you reevaluate and you look at yourself, you look at other people and they go out the country and they turn their phones off and they turn all their gadgets and social media off for a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, how the heck do you
Yeah.
do that?
How do you do that? Yeah.
How do you do that? But then you do it once and you're like, I had the same problems when I came back after a week because I would have had if I had stayed here a week.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're, of course, you're digging yourself out of emails for another week,
Yeah.
trying to catch up. So that's the
Yes.
downfall. You need another
Yeah.
week just to regroup.
Yeah.
But over time, I started to say they wouldn't have kept me around if they didn't support me and they didn't believe in my abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I can push back and, if a meeting is put on my calendar and I know I have a medical appointment, it's, hey, do you really need me at this meeting? Can I send a backup, an alternative, a delegate, whatever you want to call it? Kind of take notes for me and, debrief me later because I have another appointment. And you'd be surprised if you're truly important to that meeting, we can reschedule it until you're back. Perfect. If it's something critical, they're like, yeah, bring someone else or we'll let you know what happens after the fact. But I wouldn't have known that unless I asked.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
very
So you start to put yourself first. And it's not being nasty or rude, like
Good.
I can't make it and you better change the meeting because I'm not coming and I'm important. No, it's, conversations and, talking through it and actually getting an idea because you might not even be the best person for that meeting. It might be
That's
your
also
colleague
true. That's
that you
also
could
true.
send in your stead. So you stressed for no reason. So I'm the same way with my employees or colleagues. If they can't make an appointment, you're like, oh, well, I'll just move my doctor's appointment around. No, you will not. I sound like that, like a mom. You will not
You
change
will
your
not.
You're like, it's okay. It's okay. No, you won't. You're going to go to your appointment and I'll talk to you after. I'll change it. So, yeah,
Mm.
the only way to, expect it from your employees is to expect it from yourself. Can't tell them to do something that you won't do yourself. So,
So that's really good, especially because I think that's a key aspect of leadership is modeling what you want your people to be doing. Because I think that sometimes we can tell
mhm.
our people something, but then show something else, and that can put a strain on it. Because if you're a really inspiring leader, they don't want to let you down, and they see like you're always pushing stuff aside and moving things around, and so they won't feel comfortable. They won't have like that I know psychological safety has been coming bigger and bigger to think that they can actually do these things or ask those questions or have that flexibility. So modeling it as well as being open at your people, I think is really key.
Yeah. If I have an employee that's taking a vacation, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to have my work laptop and my work cell phone on me if you need to reach me. No, no, I'm not doing that. You're on vacation. You're with your family. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Unless an airplane is falling out of the sky and you, I'm, I'm not going to do that. So my first question is, who's your backup?
Yeah.
Who's your backup? As long as I can reach them and they know what's going on, I'm not going to bother you. I refuse to be the one. I don't want that spouse calling me and say you ruined our family vacation because
What
you
if,
kept calling.
wow.
Like, no, I don't want that. So no, if you're on vacation, you're on vacation. It's called vacation because vacate. Go.
You got to vacate.
You gotta
Yeah.
vacate. Turn it off. Shut it down. Regroup. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's very good. I know that's something that I've been trying to be more intentional about over the last year is actually taking the time, taking breaks, because I think it just comes from being an entrepreneur as well as working full time. So it's like doing both.
Mm-hmm.
So my free time is like entrepreneurial time. So it kind of bleeds into each other. So, but I've been more intentional about like even from being reacquainted with therapy and making sure that I'm prioritizing myself first so I can show up well for others. Because if I can't show well for myself, it's not gonna end well for everyone else. So that's something I've
Exactly.
been more intentional about.
Yeah. No one wants a grumpy leader. You don't want that
Mm-mm.
person that comes into the boardroom and they just got this curmudgeon face and it just makes the mood of the meeting and you're not making good decisions if they're
Mhm.
just not in a good state of
Yes.
mind. And I've actually done that before. If I walked into a boardroom and there was a meeting like right before with one of our senior leaders, I'll ask somebody, I was like, how did that meeting just end? Now, do I need to, what's the atmosphere in here so I know how to
Yeah.
approach my request?
Okay. See what you're walking into.
Yeah, let me know ahead of time. Is he in a good mood, bad mood? Like where are we at?
Okay.
So sometimes they just laugh and say, "No, it was a great meeting." I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Did you relax?
yeah, I can relax. I can ask for my $5 million investment." Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
So yeah,
No,
that's
that's really good.
you have to approach. You have to sometimes just have to approach things with laughter and lightheartedness because
Good.
some things are out of your control and
Oh
some things
yeah,
you can't control. And those you can control, you control it. Things that you can't, you readjust and you go with it. You move with the river. The direction it goes, your boat goes with it.
yeah. Then
Yeah.
that's true. There's like a quote around that really that
life is all about how you respond versus you react to things, because we can't control a lot of stuff or really anything that happens to us.
Yeah.
All we can control is our attitude
Yeah.
towards what happens.
How you
And
react. Yeah.
yeah.
You are right.
Mhm.
That's it.
So a lot of it comes from emotional intelligence and just being intentional in our leadership. And I
That's
just,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it takes time, it takes effort. Like leadership is definitely a skill. And I think,
Mm.
I don't know your experience, like when you first got into management and leadership roles, if you had any stories about like things that you wish you had done differently, or maybe things that went really well, either way, that you would want to share, like when you got into leadership roles coming out.
Things I would have done differently. Ooh, probably have been more vocal
Okay.
in my job, in my career. I always thought that my work would speak for me
Mm,
and I wouldn't have to necessarily speak out on my own behalf. And for some, that works, where someone does notice you and they notice what you've done and they give you another opportunity.
mhm,
But for others, it doesn't necessarily work. They might, someone may interpret that as you being weak, I would say,
mm.
or, oh, she's quiet, so she must not know what's going on, or
Oh,
she might
yeah.
not know her job because she's quiet. Actually, the quiet ones are more than usually the ones who actually
They know what's going
they
on.
know what's going on. They know all the secrets. They know that they're sit there absorbing
Mhm,
everything quietly in the corner. And those are the ones you go to.
mhm,
So I wish I'd just been more vocal and outspoken. And I actually had someone tell me I applied for a leadership program and I didn't get it.
mhm.
And they do like this after debrief, and they let you know how you interviewed and places to improve going
Okay.
forward and whatnot. And they told me I was too, I'm paraphrasing, too humble
Too humble.
in so many words. I didn't pat myself on the back enough and take enough credit
Oh,
for my work.
interesting.
And I was like, wow. And my response was, because I know I can't do anything by myself.
Mhm,
Everything really that I do, it was a team effort.
mhm,
And I felt bad taking full credit for a project
mhm.
that I know I didn't do on my own.
Yeah, that's fair.
And there are ways, and I tell people in interviews, if they're coming, they're like, I'm about to interview, what's some advice? An interview is your chance to really pat yourself on the back.
Mhm.
You won't get many chances to do this.
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back, take credit for any and everything that you've done. It's hard. It goes against every bone and feeling in me to do that. It
Yeah.
really does.
Mhm.
I'm a inclusive, collaborative type
Yeah.
person. And I'm not going to go in there and say, well, I did X, Y, and Z. No, my team and I
Mhm.
did X, Y, and Z. But sometimes it's okay to say, I led, or I oversaw, or I
Mhm.
directed, or you know, to put it's okay to say I. And
Yeah.
I wish I had done that earlier in my career than just kind of sitting there waiting on someone to see me in my work.
Mhm.
It did work out, but I just wonder, where would I be? Would I be further in my career right now
Mm. Wow.
if I had done more of that patting myself on the back and gotten out of my comfort zone and and you know promoted my accomplishments a little bit
Mhm.
more. But yeah, it's very difficult, very difficult. This is not who we are as a people. It's just
No, it
what's new.
definitely is. It definitely is not.
That's
And it
it.
definitely it takes time to learn. And so I do some career coaching, and that's often what I tell people about. Like this is a time to brag about yourself. Like the interview time, they want to know about you. They're not interviewing anyone else. They're
No,
interviewing you. So you need to make it focus on you. And I was fortunate enough, like early on in my career, to have like mentors who told me that, well, actually one key mentor who was like a senior leader told me that at the end of the day, you care about your career more than anyone else. It's that I'm here as a mentor, but you own your career. Like there's things that I might want to help you with, but at the end of the day, like you own it. So like you don't ask the questions, you don't go for different things, you don't talk about and have regular meetings with your manager about what the priorities are and what
Mhm.
you're doing, because when you make those assumptions that, oh, they already know what I'm doing, they already know what I'm accomplishing. Yes, we have like PDP process, but there's often a lot of things you're doing that's not on the PDP that you should also be talking about, because that might be things that can lead to other opportunities or promotions, and
Yeah.
just being more vocal about what you're interested in.
Yeah. And you know something? I learned this a couple of years ago, very late in life. Keep a record of your accomplishments.
Okay.
Keep a book. One of my cousins gave me something her organization does, and she keeps a binder of any certifications she gets, degrees, kudos from her customers, kudos from her senior leadership. She prints it out. She puts it in this book.
Wow.
And when it comes time for, when you're being nominated for awards and they're like, oh, well, write up what you've accomplished in the last year.
Mhm.
It's hard to go back through emails. Oh, I did that. Oh, I did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Wow, really? I didn't realize I did that. But if you have this book here, it's like, you know what? Here's my book. You could see everything that I've done, and
Mhm.
helps it, it helps the process as far as writing down what Lori's accomplishments were, what she's achieved,
Mhm.
because it's right there in a book. It might take a little extra time
Yeah.
to do. I'm sure my book is quite outdated. So, like I said, I'm giving you advice that I don't
Yeah.
necessarily take, but it was a good idea. If you have the time to do it, it makes things easier and not running around at the last minute to try to find out what you did in the past year, and you might miss something. You want to take
Yeah.
credit for everything. That's just
So
something.
that's yeah, that's really good advice. That even if you don't have, because you could take some time to go back and do get the stuff that
Mhm.
you've done before, but at
Yep.
least starting today, like what is the stuff that you've been doing this week they can put on there and moving forward, and then when you have time to go back and think about what you're doing over the last several years.
Yeah.
I think that's really good advice. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But yeah, we've been going for a little while already. We're almost out of time,
Okay.
but I want to make sure if there's anything we haven't talked about yet, either like maybe your story coming up or like what you're doing now, that you want to share with the audience before we close things out.
Um, um, yeah, I think it was something I raised when we did at the panel discussion.
Good.
Don't think that you don't deserve to be where you are.
Mm,
Something that I struggle with. That little bit of self-doubt that you have. I think everyone has it,
mhm.
but remove that from your mind. Remove it, because no organization is going to put you in a position that they don't believe you belong in. It makes them look bad.
Yeah.
So they're not going to put you in a spot that they don't think you're going to succeed in. Um, so if you make it to a certain point in your life, it's where you want to be, know that you belong there. If you're getting that seat at the corporate table, know that you belong there. That's your spot, that's your chair. Nobody can take it from you, only you can give up that spot.
Mhm.
So just know that you deserve whatever comes your way. But if you call it a blessing, if you call it dumb luck, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
you belong there. You deserve it. And it's not going to come overnight. You're still going to have those, feelings that pop up every now and again when you're in a room of 20 other people with 4 PhDs behind their name, and you're like, okay, do I really belong here? Yeah, you do, because you
Yeah.
might bring a different perspective
Yeah.
than they bring. You might just bring that personality a different mood
Mm-hmm.
to the meeting. You
Mm-hmm.
might be the one who's the collaborator who knows how to deal with the egos and to bring everybody together so that
Mm-hmm.
they can accomplish the mission and accomplish the goal and get the project done. That might be your contribution to the team.
And then,
So if you're there for a reason, and just know that. And I'm still finding my reason. I think I'm going to continue to find my reasons and continue to embrace it and learn from it and implement it when I go into any environment or tackle any challenge. You know, why am I here? What talents do I have? What can I bring to the table? Because it's not always a technical talent. Like I said, you might be just that person who knows how to deal with other people and personalities. You're the
mm-hmm.
collaborator.
Yeah.
You're the one that can, when tensions get high, you're the one that can bring the tension down. So just
And
know your worth, know your purpose, know your talents, and bring that to the table because you belong there.
I really like that. Know your worth, know your purpose, know your talents. Just this whole idea of self-awareness. And then also, I think what you were mentioning really has to deal with an imposter syndrome when you feel like you don't belong then there, where it's like, and it's something that it affects everyone. And I feel like what I always tell people is that when we don't talk about it or we don't address it, that gives it more power.
Mm-hmm.
So being
Yep.
intentional, like you have these feelings, but no, like this is criteria. They chose me for a reason. Like you were saying, like no company wants to set themselves up for failure.
Yeah. Well, and know that you're not alone.
Listen,
Surprisingly, imposter syndrome affects more people than you know.
mm-hmm,
And you don't realize it until you start to talk
mm-hmm,
to them and reach out to them and ask questions. Yeah, for the longest time, I thought I was the only one. They're
mm-hmm.
going to find me out. I don't really know what I'm talking about. They're going to, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, they're going to take away my degree. They're going to take away, they're going to, they're going to reassess their decision. Like, why is she here? What's going on?
Yeah.
But everyone feels, I think everyone goes through that and everyone feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, yeah, finding that confidant, finding that friend, someone you can talk to
Mm-hmm.
off the table, and they're going to keep
Yeah.
what you say to them confidential, and having that tight knit network of core people that you trust. And you'll be surprised that a lot of you share a lot of things in common that you don't necessarily believe that you do. Everyone struggled with work life integration. They've struggled with imposter syndrome. They've struggled with their mental health or
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. And sometimes you're just afraid to verbalize it and bring it to light. But sometimes bringing it to light, it's a healing mechanism.
Yeah.
So that was my, being vulnerable was one of my key things I wanted to achieve this year.
Mm-hmm.
Being vulnerable in my role as a leader. So we do a lot of, DEI dialogues where we talk about different topics. And a lot of times I don't like to share what's going on with me personally because I thought it was a weakness.
Good.
So now I am being more intentional of sharing stories with others about my life and what's going on and things I've gone through. And it's amazing how it brings a team together
Yeah.
and how it opens up, and you find out from your colleagues and your employees things that they've gone through, and you're like, wow, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that. You seem so strong. And they're going through things too, and they're putting
Yeah.
on this persona and face just like you. But I think sometimes it brings the family, it brings the group together.
Yeah.
And you can't bring it together unless you're willing to kind of be that first step. You're learning by you. um and that was another thing I tell people: there's a difference between a manager and a leader.
Absolutely.
And I think a manager is really focused on the business and
Mm-hmm.
making the numbers. A leader is interested in the business as well as their employees and
Mm-hmm.
the well-being of their employees. And I told someone if there was a fire in the building and your supervisor runs out the building, or your leadership runs out the building, and they say, okay, everybody, we're going left, and you go right. That's not a leader.
Yeah.
That's not a leader. They're not following you. They're a manager.
Yeah.
So if I'm running out and I'm like, let's go to the left, and everybody's like, whatever she says, that's where we're going. I want them to see me as the leader, and I'm not going to steer them in the wrong direction. I'm not going to do anything to them that I wouldn't do to myself. I wouldn't put them in harm's length or in danger or anything. I'm not going to steer you wrong. So I'm always trying to be that humble servant leader. I'm not going to actually do something I'm not going to do myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to roll up my sleeves, and I'm going to jump in where I need to jump in. And, if you tell me stay out, I'll stay out. I'll respect your wishes. But if I need to jump in, I have no problem. No problem at all. I'm going to pitch in as long as the job gets done. Roles and titles out the door.
Yeah.
Out the door. It's a team effort. We're going to get it done.
Yeah. It is a team effort.
Good.
And having a leader who recognizes servant leadership is the right way to go. Like you mentioned, that's absolutely critical. So thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It's been incredible having you on the show, sharing your experiences from being on a submarine to where you are now as a chief engineer. And how tall are you, by the way? I meant to ask that earlier.
I am 6 feet tall without shoes.
Oh, wow. Without shoes.
Yeah. I do wear my occasional 3-inch heels. Yeah.
Okay. That makes you a little bit taller. Yeah. So it can be cramped on a sub for weeks at a time. So for sure.
Yes. So no, not for me. I'm a girly girl.
There you go.
I do like to dress up. So.
Nice.
Well, thank you, Paul, for having me. I am so, oh my God, this was amazing. I'm honored. Yeah.
Absolutely. No,
I can go tackle the world now. Ready to go.
No, it's so good. You share a lot of great information for the audience. I want to make sure they know how to connect with you, whether that's on LinkedIn or however. What's the best way?
LinkedIn, Lori Austin Strange. Same on Facebook, Instagram, all the same. That's about it.
Okay.
Oh, email. You can contact me on my personal email, lnstrang77@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your social as well as your email. So for those of you watching, it came across the screen already. For those of you who are listening, you can check the show notes, or you can just rewind or just go back and then listen to it again, either way. But yeah, it was really incredible having you on the show, sharing your experiences. And I just really appreciate your authenticity, because I think a lot of times when people reach a level, especially you are as a chief engineer, it's really easy to not talk about all those things, because like, at least for me and most people looking up, they're like, well, we know that you had to go through those things, but not a lot of people talk about it. And so just your authenticity, as well as just sharing about imposter syndrome, and like even the stuff that you still deal with at times and still learning on the job, I think that definitely resonates with me. I think it'll resonate with the audience as well.
Good. Thank you. I hope if it helps to impact just one person, then I've done my job and I'm happy. So yeah, hopefully there's a part 2 to this. I'll come back anytime you want, any topic you want. Thank you so much.
That. Yeah, absolutely. We could probably make it happen.
Okay.
But
sounds good.
For sure. But for everyone else listening, hope you learned something from Lori's story, that where you start. And I think just take the opportunity. It might not be the one that you want, but just do something, and it can lead to where you never even thought it could lead with. And then even just being intentional about how you approach things, ask the questions, don't be afraid to step out into something new, and you can truly be incredible. Thanks for listening.
Great.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible.